Almost looks like Tatooine.
Yeah, so I picked it because it's kind of topical,
Yeah, it's all good. No worries.
That's the win. Alrighty, righty.
Alright, we're getting ready to get into a match, guys.
Do, do, do.
Welcome to the podcast. Hopefully one player will join us soon. It's been a few days since we've heard from him.
Last
Hey,
online 2 days ago.
hey Harvey, how's it going?
Hi.
Hey FBE, how are you doing?
What's up, what's up, what's up, guys?
Welcome, welcome.
We're in for a good podcast tonight.
Yeah, it should be a fun time. You guys made it at the perfect time. I'm glad you guys...
L got school today.
Oh, that's good, Harvey. What? Alright, we can start whenever you're ready.
Shall we start?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Welcome to the dark side, guys. How are we doing today? All right.
Pretty good, huh?
Cool. We got some stuff to discuss. Nothing crazy, but it should be fun.
Alright.
So we want to start with first thoughts on the episodes then?
Yep, so we got a few topics tonight, nothing too crazy like Joe said, but yeah, we're gonna go through them, and as always, we're gonna start off with our Mando and Bad Batch reaction. So, Joe, you wanna take the floor?
Yeah, okay, so
And L got
So we're-
swimming too.
okay, so let's start with Mando. So this episode, hey, one player, are you going to be joining us? I see you just came into the podcast. So
Yep, it's not too late to join in.
this week's episode of The Mandalorian was episode 4. And this episode was an interesting one because we got to see some pretty interesting stuff in terms of the present day, focusing on the foundlings and how things go. And seeing some of the training in the beginning was pretty cool. But then we finally got in this episode the
Stuff today, so I can't come on.
no worries, one player. It's all good. He can't come on because he's got a lot of stuff to do today, apparently. But so we finally got those flashbacks we waited for in this episode, and they went a different direction than most of us expected. But I do think this episode focused on some pretty cool things. You had the Mandalorians, you had Grogu trying to be a Mandalorian, and you had a bunch of Mandalorians going on a rescue mission. So it was a pretty good episode. I would give this one. I think I'm probably going to give it maybe my lowest Mando score yet.
For the season or for every episode?
Maybe just for the season.
Okay, because I was gonna say, there's worse ones than this.
No, there's worse episodes than this, yeah. I'm going to go 7 out of 10 on this one, or maybe 7.5 out of 10, because
Sorry.
the thing with the flashback thing just really takes you out of it, I feel. So,
Yeah.
and so that's my thoughts on the Mando episode. You're up next, Jake's, whichever one's available.
Okay. I thought this episode was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the flashback for Order 66 was a little disappointing, but it's whatever. Yeah, it was a pretty good episode. Looking forward to seeing where the rest of the season unfolds.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's good points. So yeah, I thought it was decent. I don't think it was the best episode so far, but I don't think it's the worst, episode ever either. I think the one thing I enjoyed the most out of this episode was the whole sequence with them trying to get the foundling back from the giant bird. But I think honestly, if you took out the little Grogu subplot that was happening, this episode was probably filler, to be honest.
Welcome, Daniel.
So that's why it's, and to make matters worse, the whole Grogu reveal wasn't the best thing in the world. It was a little bit underwhelming. So, um, yeah, overall, not the best episode. Still a solid episode. I still like seeing, Mando and Bo-Katan and Grogu. Seeing, at least we got an explanation of what happened. But yeah, overall, solid episode. Not the best, not the worst. So yeah, pretty decent. So we'll start with Bad Batch now. Joe, you want to give your reaction?
Yeah, okay, so Bad Batch. This episode I feel much better about than Mando. There was nothing in Bad Batch that really annoyed me or pissed me off, except for, of course, whenever Omega's on screen, because that's something that can be annoying at times. But
Yes,
there was
definitely.
no Sid this episode. There was there was a mention of her, but at least we didn't have to see her, which was good.
Yeah.
But we did get some really good clone action in the beginning of this episode, and we got to see our boys' crosshairs, which was awesome. And seeing Echo was pretty cool. We saw Gregor back from Clone Wars, which that was pretty cool. And we got a new clone, Fireball, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, this was a really solid episode. If I had to score this one, and the ending set up the final two episodes, which is pretty cool, I'm gonna give this episode of the Bad Batch. I'm gonna give this one just 1 point over the Mando one, which I'll give it, because I didn't have a huge problem with this episode. This one I'll give an 8. Just a solid
That's
8.
fair.
Nothing over. I think an 8 is good, because I thought both episodes are good. This episode just is a tiny bit better for me because it didn't have that unnecessary thing. But yeah, so that's my take on that. I think that would definitely be. And I went into this episode expecting, oh, Amanda's gonna be the best. It's gonna be great, and then you watch the episodes and you're like, oh, Bad Batch was pretty good, and it was.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't want to go here. I mean, I guess I'll just go here before Jake because I kind of interrupted you.
It's
But
fine.
that's my point. That was actually going to be my point with Bad Batch is that I actually enjoyed this episode of Bad Batch because my expectations were really low. Because of that, I think the episode really surprised me, and I enjoyed it a
Yeah.
lot more. There's a lot of cool stuff. The opening sequence was so well done. I
Definitely.
loved seeing all the clones back. And clones are cool. I like the whole subplot with the Crosshairs and the Doctor. Crosshairs is still a badass.
Oh yeah.
He's unrelenting. He will never give up. Unless against his will. But the Doctor is really interesting. I'm excited to see where that goes. And it was really cool seeing Tarkin in this episode too. I didn't expect to see him, but yeah. Whenever you can involve mainline Star Wars characters into anything, I think that's a plus. So overall, really solid episode, in my opinion.
Definitely.
Go ahead, Jake. You can take the floor now.
Alright, yeah, I also really like this episode. All the stuff with Echo in this episode is very interesting.
I agree.
Yeah, so very solid episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they wrap up the season next week.
Yeah, I'm almost sad to see it. I'm sad to think the next episode is going to be the final two episodes, and then that's it. So.
But it's gonna be nice
Yeah.
to see a cool finish. I think that's gonna be pretty cool just to see how we wrap this
Yeah.
up.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm very excited though. So overall, both episodes very solid. Hopefully we get a good one next week for Mando, and I think the finale of Bad Batch is gonna excite both of us,
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty
for
cool.
all of us. So yeah. I think that's all the Star Wars, or at least the Mando and Bad Batch.
Yeah, that's
thing.
just our review portion. Then we have other stuff to discuss as well.
All right, so we're staying on the topic of Star Wars. We got some news about the Ahsoka show, and specifically our main man Ezra Bridger.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna do something new here because I don't remember all the exact details. But Joe, if you want to take it away, you want to tell us?
Yeah,
what we learned?
so we have some MakingStarWars.net reports, and they have been very reliable when it comes to Star Wars news because every single thing that has happened on a Disney Plus Star Wars show so far, they've gotten right. There was leaks they had about the Obi-Wan show, and they were 100% true. There was things about the Boba Fett show, 100% true. Even so they've been pretty accurate, and so we've heard a couple things. There's been a couple things floating around Mando season 3 that are starting to line up as well. But the main thing, this is about the Ahsoka show, and there's a couple things to take into mind with this. So the first thing to take in mind is, you guys don't remember from the end of Rebels, when we see Sabine in the new Ahsoka show, she'll be wielding Ezra's lightsaber, his green one, as her melee weapon in the show. And this report indicates that there's going to be a lot of lightsaber duels in probably more than any other previous Star Wars Disney Plus project we've seen so far. We know that
that's awesome, dude.
We know that Thrawn has hired his own basically Siths, because you have Balon, who is played by Ray Stevenson, and he's like kind of like an Imperial Admiral that works for Thrawn, but is also a Sith. And then you have his apprentice Shin, which is kind of going to be like the new Ventress. So
okay,
so you're going to have these two working against him. And in this report, we find out since Ezra does not have his lightsaber, he has been his kyber crystal, a new kyber crystal, has not called out to him. So because of that, you're going to see him actually expanding his Force powers. And Ezra Bridger is going to be like the Force Karate Kid, basically. He's going to, if you played Street Fighter or Dragon Ball, he's going to be utilizing his hands and feet and his connection to animals to fight undead stormtroopers and many other foes. Now, this doesn't mean he won't get a new lightsaber in the show, but in terms of reports, nobody's seen him with a new saber yet. But what we do know is he's going to have some crazy new Force powers. And so the craziest things we're hearing is, if you guys have played Street Fighter, it sounds like he'll have his own form of like a Hadouken, or even a Kamehameha Dragon Ball move, basically. And then he'll also have like, he'll utilize his Force abilities and being a Jedi with his Jedi training. He'll have more like in melee combat, he'll have a hand-to-hand combat style. So he could be. They compared it to Terrace Kasi, which is what many people that studied under Maul use. And Terrace Kasi was invented for Force users to use martial arts into their Force abilities, if you guys don't know. So I could see that you might see things like Ezra throwing kicks and punches, but they might be behind like a Force move. Like maybe he's Force pushing someone and then side kicking them, and then they go flying through the Force push. Like, you're going to get some really crazy powers. And honestly, this is great for Ezra, because Ezra has been kind of looked at as like, well, he's trained by Kanan. He's pretty strong, but we really didn't know how powerful he was in the Force from just Rebels. So I think this is a pretty cool thing. I'm a fan of this. I can't wait. I'm going to do my own separate video on this, because I have some thoughts that I could talk about this for probably a few hours. There's a lot of things to speculate and talk about that are pretty exciting. But this is my main thoughts on it. It sounds exciting if this is true. Like I always say, like Mace Windu says to Anakin Skywalker, if what you've told me is true, you have gained my trust in Star Wars. So yeah. I'm gonna pass this over to Jake Ford's thoughts on this next.
Yeah, that's a lot to take in, what you just gave us. But all of it sounds really exciting.
I agree.
One thing I was thinking when you were saying this is, I hope, did they ever confirm the actor for Ezra? I don't know if they have.
They did. I forget what his name was.
Yeah, they did.
Whoever it is, I hope that if what you're telling me is true, I hope this guy gets some training. They actually, because I love to see when actors really take on like the role. They don't just use fun actors.
Oh yeah, of course.
I want to see some actual martial arts here, because if they're implementing the Force and actual fighting skills into for fight scenes, that's gonna be really awesome. So
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, I'm
I'd
excited,
imagine you'll
and
go through some
I'm
training.
really excited to see these new force powers because I think there's a ton of stuff that you can do with the Force and how you can fight with it. And they've done a little bit, but they've mostly relied on lightsabers for Jedi's to, use them. And
And
I
what I
think
like about
if
this
they
is this
tap
is
into something new,
basically
it's gonna be really cool
and what's
and
cool
really
about this is
exciting.
another example, and I was going to bring this up that it also mentions in the report. But in the report, they were also slandering a Force idea that the sequel trilogy did between Kylo Ren and Rey in their little Force space
Yeah.
time. This is Ryan Johnson. Take notes. This is how you actually use the Force.
Yeah.
I mean, if Han
You
Solo
don't use
was
just the Force to just to do
just
a
do some
FaceTime.
stupid
You
little
really use
FaceTime.
it.
No, you
Yeah.
utilize
Yeah.
that this is the living energy of everything around you. You can do so many cool
Exactly. And
things.
there's so
Like,
much more you can do with just that. I mean, think about what Joe just said. The living embodiment of everything around you. I
yep.
mean, that's that's more than just a FaceTime. That's like, what you saying the reports sound like is, being able to make, conjure something out of your hands. I mean, that's
This
awesome.
also
I
is
really
very
want some
on
more.
brand for Dave Filoni to me because
It is,
because
yeah.
we know he worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender. We know that if you watch the Clone Wars movie, there's a scene with Anakin and Dooku fighting on Tatooine, and there's a scene where they're facing off, and they're both using their lightsabers. But at one point, Anakin gets his lightsaber knocked out of his hand, and he hits Dooku with the Force using a sandstorm. Like he's literally controlling using
Yeah,
the Force and summoning. So it's like this.
yep.
This feels like this. This feels like just utilizing the Force to ways that people want to see, and this makes it sound really interesting because you're like, oh, we can do these really cool things with the Force, and we're gonna get that expanded. And the Ahsoka show, being how powerful Ahsoka is as a Force user, this is great. And like we heard, this show is gonna have a pretty big budget. I think the Ahsoka show will have a bigger budget than the Mandalorian because even though it's really expensive for the Mandalorian to have armor, the fact that they're gonna have crazy Force powers and lightsabers involved again, because obviously we have the dark saber in Mando, and Luke showed up once, and Ahsoka showed up once with her white lightsabers. It's like that was very like limited. It was one episode. It wasn't crazy. Where this is an entire show where a former Jedi is your lead character. Like that's gonna be
There's
cool.
a lot you can do with that. I mean,
And there's a lot of other characters we can see in this show. Like I'm still hoping, because we still don't know what happened to her. I'm still hoping that they'll introduce Barriss in this show, coming back from Clone Wars, the person that betrayed Ahsoka and
dude,
stole
that'd be sick.
Ventress's lightsabers. Because I've seen some people toss this around, and I think it may be possible that while I don't think Barriss would become a Sith, I think Barriss could be a Dark Jedi, which is a concept that Star Wars hasn't used yet fully, and I think that would be really cool because when you really think about it, yes, Thrawn is going to be the villain of the Ahsoka show, but you really want someone that could be really personal to Ahsoka and be a physical challenge for her. And as much as I love Thrawn, that's not Thrawn. Like you need someone that can actually be a problem for Ahsoka throughout the show, and I think Barriss is that kind of character. And I think that would be really cool, and I'd love to see it. So the more we hear about this Ahsoka show, I've said this before. Like, don't get me wrong. There's still a lot we don't know about the Acolyte, and I'm definitely excited to see what happens with the Acolyte. But out of all the Star Wars shows that we know the most information about, the Ahsoka show, and I know with you, Jake Ford, because of how much you love the character, if the Ahsoka show is not most people's most anticipated thing at this point, I would be shocked because what we're hearing about this show, I mean, it's Dave Filoni directing this entire show of basically every Rebels fan and Clone Wars fans' dreams, right? And like,
Yeah.
and this is exactly what we want, and it's gonna be amazing. Like
I mean,
I don't know about you,
I've been saying this. I've been saying this for a long time. I've been saying that Ahsoka's my #1 show.
it's gotta be.
You said it was the. I mean, I remember when you were saying it was the Acolyte, and I was like, really? Like,
I would say I'm interested in the Acolyte because the thing that turned me on to the Acolyte was the time period and that it was going to connect with the events before Phantom Menace. Because one thing that Star Wars has only done in books that I really want to see elaborated And we can bring this up to, did we have any notes about the Jedi Survivor trailer?
No, we didn't, but we can do that after.
Okay, we'll do that
after
later. I'll bring my topic up later because it connects to that. But yeah, long story short, I have said that, well, I was excited for The Acolyte and I still want to watch The Acolyte. This new report, if it's true, will make Ahsoka more anticipated for me. Because if you guys don't know, when I started being a Star Wars fan, out of everything in Star Wars, so everyone likes Star Wars for different reasons. Some people like the space battles. Some people like to see the blaster showdowns like Han Solo fighting a bunch of bounty hunters, taking out stormtroopers. Some people are interested in the lore of the Jedi and the Sith, right? Everyone's got their thing. I've always been, ever since every version of Star Wars, if anyone pays attention to the type of Star Wars content I make, I am all about anything involving lightsaber battles, lightsaber scenes, the Jedi, the Sith, any way that they do that. So the Ahsoka show it's right up my alley, and I'm completely on board with that. Because I'm sure there'll be lightsaber things in the Acolyte, because it's going to revolve around Sith, we've heard, but Ahsoka, ever since that episode of Mando, and I might be alone in this, but to me personally, if I had to go and rank all my favorite episodes of Mando, that Ahsoka episode that Dave Filoni did is still very high up on my top list of Mando episodes. Like, it's very high. Just what he was able to do is a different level, and just like, it felt like a mixture between a samurai movie and a Western at the same time, when the Mando is normally a Western. But that samurai element just made it so much better. And that showdown between, the other thing I didn't mention in the report that I forgot to mention is, I don't remember what her fate was in that Mando episode, but apparently the person that Ahsoka defeated is also going to return in Ahsoka. Morgan Elsbeth is said to be back, which I think is pretty interesting, because it sounds like she's a big part of Thrawn's operation, and that's why she was able, when Ahsoka knew that she was a part of Thrawn, that's why she asked him, or asked her about him. So this is going to be very cool. This makes the Ahsoka show sound even more exciting than it already did. And the best part is, we were hearing originally we were going to have to wait till fall. It's coming out this summer, baby, so
yeah.
It won't be long now.
Supposedly, I don't know when Loki's coming, because Loki has been shifted around, and so is Secret Wars, or not Secret Wars, sorry. Secret
and as much as I love Marvel, if Loki and all those other shows are getting moved around so that they can be perfected better and get everything out.
I think the only show that could possibly rival Ahsoka is Loki, but if Loki doesn't come out around that time, then yeah, probably he's going to take it all.
And it's good that they're not going to have those shows come out at the same time as Ahsoka, because we want Ahsoka to have its time in the spotlight. Because by the time Ahsoka comes out, Mando will be over.
I think Ahsoka's going to be my top tier show. For, like,
it definitely will be. It will definitely be
it's going to be awesome. I've always been a huge fan of Ahsoka. I love Ahsoka. I mean, she's my favorite Star Wars character.
Yeah, she's a great Star Wars character. And I think that she definitely, that show has so much potential based on what we've heard, and so many characters that we can't wait to see. So I can't wait. Hopefully when Mando starts picking up in a few more weeks into some of these episodes, we'll get more hints of kind of where we're going into, because after Mando, you're going to think with it being the Mandoverse that Dave and John have set up, there's going to be some things in Mando that really set the stage for Ahsoka. So I think that's going to be really cool to see that like overlap of like, okay, what do we learn in Mando that really kind of helps us hit the ground running for Ahsoka. So that I think is going to be pretty cool. And yeah, I think this is great. I mean, we all know we were excited about the Ahsoka show. We love Ahsoka. Rosario Dawson is perfectly casted, and I think that they're going to do a great job.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, everything I'm hearing about the show, whether it's true or not, I don't think, whatever you're saying is too far from the truth. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what we will get out of this, for sure.
Absolutely.
Jake, if you want to go, you can go ahead and share your thoughts. Sorry that joke kind of took forever.
Sorry, I had so much to add. This was such a hype thing that I read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, This is pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to this. That's it.
That's it. All right. Yeah, I mean, I think we
Let
can all
me.
mutually agree that this is a huge thing for all of us, and something we're all looking forward to.
And like for
Um,
me, like the thing that I think for my final thoughts on this, my biggest thing with this is if this is true about Ezra, the thing I love about this is it feels like where like your favorite character will be Ahsoka. I've always like I wouldn't say Ezra's my favorite character, but I've always quite liked this
you're gonna
Ezra.
be an Ezra guy, aren't you?
I
Yeah.
probably will be more Ezra guy
No,
because
I
of
mean, I
the
totally get it. Everything you're saying about him sounds like
like
fucking
just
dope.
just the fact that there could be a character in Star Wars that is like just straight up like
He's
freaking
basically like Neo of Star Wars.
yeah, like that just sounds amazing to me. And imagine like
Yeah.
when he does get a new saber and he adds that to it. I love that we're getting more of Ezra's story. The fact we're getting more Ezra makes me very happy.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
think
excited.
I'm really glad that they're really gonna like double down on utilizing Ezra because I think Ezra is kind of the Luke that we never got for the sequels.
I agree.
I
I
think he's
definitely
like
agree with
our
that statement.
he's definitely to the Star Wars fans. He's our prodigy. Like he's I think he's our next big guy. Like he's gonna lead us into something. Um, him and Cal, but Cal right now is in a little bit of a gray area. But speaking of Cal, if you want to go ahead and talk about let's go ahead and talk about that story trailer.
Yes, we got a brand new trailer for Jedi Survivor guys involving story, and this is pretty big, guys, because we get to see some pretty crazy stuff. And so what this trailer confirms is one thing we didn't know from the previous trailers is that all our favorite characters are back that we've wanted to see. You have Marin back, the Night Sister. You have Grease, and even though she's barely in the trailer, you also have Cal's old mentor, which is pretty cool to have her be back. And then it was another fun thing is I'm reading the Jedi Survivor Battle Scars book that leads into that 5-year gap, and I'm already starting to find out things about those individual characters and where they go in this 5-year journey. And this trailer really drives home like obviously there's still things about the game that we don't know. Like there's still that something I think is very interesting, and I wanted to bring this up on this topic. How do you guys feel about that? They've hinted at about all the different lightsaber stances we have for this game, right? But I'm sure there'll be other promotional because we still have like a month before the game goes. But I don't think we'll get any more big trailers like this.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So what's interesting to me, why I mentioned that, is with no more big trailers, we probably won't see any footage of that blaster stance until we actually play the game. Because remember, we that was one of the whole things was that we were going to get to see that stance, and there's been nothing
Yeah, I
about
don't
it.
know. I think it's gonna be, we might see some other footage. I think as it gets closer to releasing, there's gonna be more little like TV spots
Most
and
games
little
do have a launch trailer, so we might get
TV
one more
clips,
final
launch
smaller
trailers.
thing.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. So
So
that's
something like that. But
possible.
I think eventually, but I think the exciting thing about this is they want us to. They don't want to spoil everything. They want us to experience new gameplay. Like,
And what I love
when we-
about this is like, if you look at the first game, the big mystery in the first game was who is this ninth sister, right? Or not ninth, but who's the second sister? And that was the big thing in the first game. And then we got surprises like Vader thrown in there, and a couple other things, right?
Yeah, Vader was crazy.
Well, through all these trailers, they've been kind of teasing, which is the thing I was going to mention earlier, is what I like that they're doing is we know the Empire is a problem, we know the Empire is still in this game, but the Empire is not the main focus in this game. And that is very exciting to me because as much as we love our Imperial forces, it's nice to know that this galaxy is so big that there's other threats to deal with.
yeah.
And one of the things I was going to mention when we were talking about the Acolyte was the one thing that had me excited about the Acolyte is there's a chance that the Acolyte's going to include some High Republic things. And I never read very much of the novels of High Republic, but this game looks like we're going to get some pretty High Republic hints because of the new villain that was in the Bacta tank. It is basically confirmed from this trailer. I had my suspicions from previous trailers, but we know for a fact in this trailer now that our adversary is from the High Republic, and he has survived for whatever reason for that long being in the Bacta tank. We still don't know how he gets out, but we see him talking to Cal in this trailer, throwing a stormtrooper helmet at him and going, you know, how could you guys let this happen? Like, how could you let the Empire take over? So he seems, his motivation is very different from the second sister. He's mad at the Jedi for basically screwing up.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And
I think a path he might take in this game is, you know, it might be a self thing where he kind of figures like he doesn't know who's left. I mean, for all he knows, he's the only Jedi Jedi left.
True.
So, yeah, it might be a I'm trying to think of the word, but basically what I'm trying to say is he might think it falls upon him now to save everybody, to save,
Yeah.
or to do what he can, because again, for all he knows, he was the only Jedi. He can
Right.
still search out and look for Jedi, but as far as he knows, you know, he might think, you know, I don't know if there's anybody left, but I gotta take this into my hands since I'm the only
Right.
one who has these powers. I'm the only one who can give people hope. So, you
Yeah.
know, it could be that.
And that's the other thing we have in this trailer is the characters during, which looks like through some cutscenes, are trying to basically say, you know, there's a place where we can go to hide from the Empire. And that's going to be something in this game that's going to be pretty interesting, is like, where are we going? How are we hiding from the Empire? Where are things going to be? Where is this kind of hidden area going to be? Like, and so that's going to be interesting. There's definitely some interesting surprises in this trailer that could lead to some really interesting things in the game. And then one of the things we haven't covered yet is we know from the trailer, in the first game we had almost all new planets. In this game, there's going to be new planets, but it also looks like we're going to Coruscant. And not just Coruscant, we're going to the underlevels of Coruscant, which means there could be Easter eggs to 1313. And if you guys don't know, 1313 was a scrapped Star Wars. Yeah, exactly. There's a couple reasons why this is a pretty big deal, and I think this gameplay trailer.
I've always wanted something like this, like a Star Wars game that just maybe not, you know, it doesn't have to be just centered around Coruscant, but I would love like an open world Coruscant where you could just go into any building and to anything, because that whole planet is just building. So imagine like an open. Now unfortunately, I don't think Jedi Survivor is going to go that direction, but I would love an open world Coruscant game.
Well, I think one way they could do that is, I've heard some talks about a lot of Star Wars fans want them to remaster and make a new multiplayer version of the Jedi Academy games, they could do something like that and make that like open world Coruscant if they wanted. I think that'd be cool. So yeah, I think this is pretty cool. The fact that we're gonna go to Coruscant in another Star Wars game, I think is a pretty big deal. And I'm excited to see what we're doing on Coruscant. Like, what's our purpose here? Why are we here? Where is, also it seems like, our mentor from the first game that's now apparently bald and has, like, markings, she's kind of moved on and still trying to hide in, like, the Jedi archives and find herself as a Jedi in her new ways now that Trilla is gone. So this is going to be pretty interesting, seeing where they go with this, and also one of the things I really like about this game, one of the things I really like about this trailer is, obviously, while it is a story trailer, there is some gameplay in here that is pretty cool to look at and point out. And one of the best things in here that they introduced in the trailer is this AI companion feature in the game, where you might be facing an enemy, and then someone like your friend, I think his name is Bode, and then you also have like the likes of Mira, they can join you in battle. And like, So you're not going to be alone on your quest in this game. When you're being pinned down by stormtroopers, when purge troopers are beating the crap out of you, causing problems, you're going to have people to back you up. And this is something in this game that I really like that they're adding this. I think this is going to make the game a lot of fun. I think it's a really cool feature.
No, I agree. I think it's. I don't know. I'm really excited to see what's to come of this. Not only does the story, look really intriguing, and honestly, we have no idea where it's gonna go, but it looks like a fun. It just looks like like a fun game to just play on. I mean, the gameplay looks really cool
Absolutely.
too. So, um, I think they found a perfect balance between gameplay and story. And I'm
Absolutely.
excited to play. I'm excited. And I'm excited for you because I know you're gonna spend hours on this game.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be streaming it like so many times, and it's gonna be a blast to do with everyone. I'm super excited for everyone to get to see my reactions and experiences with it. So I'm very excited. I mean, we knew this was coming. It didn't disappoint, and yeah, I'm very happy about this. I'm glad we covered this. I'm excited to read more of the book, and I will be updating you guys when I read more. If I find anything that sets up the game at all and has any like hints of certain characters that you wouldn't find out through the game, I'll let you guys know if I read anything because I have the novel and I've been reading it. So
Yeah.
Hey Matt.
it will be
Since
interesting.
the game comes out in April, we'll keep you guys updated every week of the podcast. We'll keep you guys updated when we talk about Star Wars.
Yeah,
We'll
we're
come
definitely
back to
gonna
this
always
again,
talk about
definitely.
Survivor, definitely. But yeah, I think
Until
that's
the
a
game
great.
launches, yeah.
Yeah, so we look forward to doing that for sure.
And then even after the game launches, once we do our weekly, we're gonna do a weekly update on how Joe's doing in the game and where he's at.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely gonna
if he
let
gives
people
us the
know.
time, if he's not gonna be, streaming it
No, yeah.
24/7.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely come in and let people know what's going on.
All right, so that's Star Wars covered, I think, right?
Yeah.
Jake, did you have anything else to say
Hi.
about Survivor?
Hey, Andrew Tate, welcome.
No.
All right. Well, we'll move on right to Marvel then. So we got some pretty decent news from Marvel. Just two main things here. One thing that's pretty huge is a longtime Marvel executive who's worked in visual effects department, on top of other things, has left Marvel after being with them for over 10 years, since 2006 when they started. So this is some pretty big news. Um, not a lot of execs leave after a long time. I mean, usually they form a trust and they form some kind of, I don't know. I mean, they're usually stick to, I mean, I guess there's the possibility of them finding other job opportunities, but this is pretty surprising since um, this person's been with them for as long as they have been. So, what do you think, Joe? Do you think this means anything? What is your reaction to this?
I do think this is a sign, and I've seen people hint at this. I think as much as people might look at this as a big thing, a lot of people I've seen some people look at this as a negative thing. But based on what I've heard of what she was in charge of, I think this is actually a good thing because what I'm understanding is this sounds like this is Bob Iger finally getting ready to clean house. He's taking the people that clearly messed up, and even though she left for whatever reason, her own reasons, something made her want to leave, and and I think this is pretty good considering if you're the president of VFX and everything, and Phase 4 happened, now would be the time to get out, especially looking at Ant-Man and everything. It's definitely something that you probably would want to leave if you were a part of those things. I mean, imagine if she was a part of the reason that she greenlit the VFX for She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Like that, this could be a win for Marvel in the long run.
It could be, yeah. I mean, depending on, how much of control she was in the VFX department, we just don't know.
Right.
Unfortunately, they don't release a lot of details when this kind of stuff happens. Makes sense though for other reasons and personal reasons. But, maybe she was hopefully I mean, not hopefully in terms of her, but hopefully in terms of us. Hopefully she was the reason why everything looks so bad, and now we can finally get some stuff that's gonna look actually
Yeah,
good.
hopefully we can get some things fixed
Um,
with her gone.
if not though, I don't know, dude. I mean, if that's the opposite, and if it's, let's say she's the one who made everything look good, and then that's the problem. But yeah, we just won't know until maybe the next few Marvel movies. So, um, yeah, I don't know how to feel about this really. I mean, it's surprising. Um, it also makes me wonder who's next. Just because there's some pretty huge Marvel execs that are still there. Um, I don't know if anyone's next. Hopefully this is just a one-time thing. Like maybe they just were kind of done. But if people are leaving Marvel, it's a bad situation. So
Yeah,
yeah, not
definitely.
not good. Um,
Anybody being on the chopping block definitely it could lead to bad things.
yeah. Okay. Jake, do you have anything to say about this?
Um, yeah, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
pretty awesome news.
yeah, it's interesting to see that there's some things. It seems like Marvel's definitely at least trying to make things better on their part.
Yeah. So hopefully this is for the better. If not, then that's bad. But we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes. Um, all right. We get some Daredevil news. Some big Daredevil news. So, Daredevil started filming a couple weeks ago. We reported that on our podcast, and now we have some set footage finally. We have two big things. So first we have set pictures of Charlie Cox back as Daredevil, as Matt Murdock, looking pretty drippy in his trench coat, walking around with his stick. So that's pretty cool. And then big thing, there's some set footage of Daredevil Born Again. The set footage is from a little like 30-second clip. It looks like the whole set around New York is kind of 1970s, and apparently from what I'm hearing is that the footage shown is footage of this little kid, not little kid, but teenager, kind of getting bullied, getting kind of thrown aside. And from what I'm hearing, this is apparently supposed to be Wilson Fisk. So we're getting a new Kingpin origin here, which is pretty exciting. What do you think, Joe?
I think this is pretty exciting. I'm down for a new origin. We're in the MCU now. It makes sense. I'm about it. I think this is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Do you like the new look of or the look of Daredevil, Matt Murdock?
Yeah, I like his new look. I think it's pretty cool. It makes sense. We didn't and when we saw him in She-Hulk, we knew he'd be getting some new suits and some new looks. And seeing Matt Murdock is always good. So I think this is going to be a huge win for the show.
Yeah, definitely. Jake, you any thoughts?
Um, yeah, this is pretty awesome, and I can't wait for this show.
Yeah, I can't wait either. I think we're all excited for Daredevil. I mean, this is shaping up to be a really good show. Hopefully, better than most of the ones we've gotten. So,
Yeah.
got him.
Alright.
All right. What's next? All right, we got last week we all saw. I think we all saw, right? Jake saw Shazam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we
Yeah.
all saw Shazam. Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods, and we did that before our podcast, so we are gonna give our thoughts and reactions on Shazam. So, Joe, I'll let you take the floor.
Let's see. What do I have to say about Shazam? So, this movie is the epitome of a generic superhero movie. It's goofy. This is exactly the kind of comic book movie we don't want, because we want comic book movies that stand above the rest, like Logan, the Batman, the Dark Knight. Those are the kind of movies we want to see. This is just a goofy. And while we love the first Shazam, this movie doesn't even come close to the first Shazam because it's the villain choices are weird and they have their moments, but it's goofy. There's twists in the story that are goofy. There's nonsense romance stuff that happens that's goofy. There's a cameo that was literally ruined weeks before the movie's released in theaters. It's this movie. The best word for this movie is it's not only goofy, it's not that good. And I don't think DC should have put this movie out. I think they should have decided a different plan because it sounds like The Rock had some meddling with the ending of it. It seems like this movie makes choices, and where Ant-Man didn't follow up on the stakes, this movie tries to go for stakes, but it doesn't succeed because it makes everything feel kind of cheap. And one word I would use for this movie is, even though it's like only 2 hours and whatever, this movie is bloated. You feel like there's things that like, why are we spending so much time here? Like there are some positives, like there's some of the jokes are pretty bad, but then there's some stuff with Mary that's pretty fun. But other than that, I would say this movie it's pretty it's not great. It's not particularly good. Is it the worst comic book movie I've ever seen? No, but it's pretty bad. So I'd say my final thoughts, and we can choose whether we want to talk about the end credit scenes or not. I don't really think it's really needed, but your choice.
Who cares?
Yeah, for me, honestly, I'm giving this like a 6 out of 10. I think it's pretty average.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So here my thoughts. Yeah, it's pretty weak. It's a pretty weak superhero movie, to be honest. Pretty weak movie overall. Story and plot are really generic. Nothing crazy. I said this in my Letterboxd review, but it feels like a very generic fantasy movie. Like if you didn't know this was a DC movie or a superhero movie, this would just be a generic. And it's so stupid. The writing is not as strong as the first one. The jokes, most of them don't really land. The movie's way too long for its own good.
Yep.
Way too long. Like Joe said, the villains are weak. I think we spend too much. Honestly, I know the movie is about Shazam, but we spend too much time with Shazam. Like we don't spend enough time with just Billy. We just do a lot of time with Shazam and a lot of time with Freddy. And there's nothing wrong with Freddy, but I mean, I don't really care about Freddy. If you're gonna really make you're gonna pay Lucy Liu and Helen Mirren for these roles, spend more time with these characters because you could have developed those villains a little bit more, but yeah, other than that, it's a really bland superhero movie, and I didn't care for it. And the post-credit scenes are literally nothing. It doesn't matter. So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I would give it 5 out of 10. Mediocre
Pretty good.
at best.
Yeah.
Jake, what are your thoughts?
Well, I thought this movie was good, but it wasn't great.
That's a fair statement.
Yeah. I didn't like that they had Wonder Woman cameo put out, and yeah, it was not great.
God damn it, Joe. Yeah, I agree. I was gonna say that too. Yeah, that. I mean, I get why they needed to do the whole Wonder Woman thing because he's the only god left, and they needed a god to give him back his powers and make him live. But you could have added that without spoiling it with all the ads. Because come on, man. I know DC's giving up, but come on. I mean, have a little bit of class. Like, don't fucking spoil that shit. I mean, it's just But I also get it. They need ticket sales. They need people to go buy tickets. And clearly, even with spoiling the end, nobody did because this movie is bombing harder than um pretty much anything this year, honestly.
This also shows you that the execs that are still working on this movie, not including James Gunn, but the people that started working on this movie, the people left,
Just don't
the
care.
remnants of the DCEU, they
Yeah.
are just ready to die out.
Yep.
Their ideas are no good. This is clearly something that under Wada Hamada he probably was like, oh, this is gonna be a great idea, and then he just abandoned everything and went, oh, yep, yeah, why not?
Hey, how many more topics do we have?
A few more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't go.
You don't have to stay, man. If you're feeling tired, you can go ahead and opt out.
Yeah, yeah, you can go to bed, man. You're good. We'll finish off. Get some rest, man.
Alright. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
no
Thanks,
problem.
guys. Hey, thanks for coming in, dude.
Yeah, always, man. Well, thanks for coming in.
Oh, wait a sec for him to leave. Alright. Where are you, Joe?
Why would I reveal why would I reveal that to you?
Yeah, fuck you, Joe.
I still killed you, even you with your thing.
Yeah, so Shazam 2, not good. Not good. And it has me a little bit worried for Blue Beetle. Just a tad bit. Because if people aren't willing to go see Shazam, which he's not that, unpopular of a character, I just
Here's
hope
the
people
way-
still care about. I just still hope people. I hope people still care about the DC because
Here's the
I
thing
hope
that I
after,
think.
I don't know. I
Here's the
think
thing I think with
this
Blue Beetle that's
it worries.
different.
Hold on, let me finish up.
Yeah, go ahead.
It worries me for Flash more than Blue Beetle, I guess, because Flash is coming out, and Flash is a decent to popular character. So I would assume they would go to see that not only for Flash, but for Michael Keaton as Batman. And the whole multiverse. I think that'll be a popular movie, but it worries me for Blue Beetle just because Blue Beetle, and it also worries me for Aquaman because if a sequel to Shazam doesn't do good, and Shazam did pretty good, if Shazam, I don't know, it worries me. It worries me.
I feel like with those movies, Aquaman's is gonna be based off, like, we haven't even seen a trailer for Aquaman, so it's gonna be all based. It all comes down to the marketing. And that's the other thing that this movie didn't do well is this movie had no hook, so there was no way to market this movie the way that it should have been marketed. And I think I've heard that we'll probably get a Blue Beetle first trailer pretty soon, from what I've heard. At least
teaser, I hope.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
with the Flash, like I said, the Flash, despite the horribleness around the main actor, I think with both Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck and this new Supergirl and Zod, they got their hook. They know how to hook people in. Some people have claimed to see it. So like, I think you're definitely gonna see some pretty cool things. So with Aquaman, yeah, I'm worried for Aquaman because I think here's the way I look at it. The movies that are literally the remnants of the old DC, I think will suffer. But from what we know of Blue Beetle, it's a new character. It doesn't sound like he had anything to do with old DC, the way that they were doing things. So
That makes sense.
I feel like Blue Beetle's gonna be one of those things that I think it's respond to the movie and how the marketing is done. If the marketing is, then we'll probably make more. What do you say?
I agree. I think every movie is it's based on a lot of things, and especially marketing. Because if people don't know the movie exists, you can't really have a movie, right? So,
True.
yeah.
It's the thing. I think people forgot about Shazam, and then when they heard the reviews out, they're like, oh, well, people are saying this is bad.
I feel
Do I really
bad
want to
because
waste the time?
This is a huge loss for DC. not only did it do critically bad, but it also did financially bad. So this
Yeah.
is a huge, huge L for DC and for Warner. Um, and I just hope that I hope that they put trust in these upcoming projects because if they don't, this is really going to backfire on DC.
Yeah. I think I think you'll see trust. It's really more about there's issues with what things are gonna happen. I think.
But I also feel like, this movie did not do really well. Neither, nor was it a good movie. If they could still put this out, we've probably been over this a ton of times, but if they could still put this out, why couldn't you have put out Batgirl? Like, come on, let's be honest. You could have put out Batgirl.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, they're keeping that close to the vest for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I have my theories about it being connected to their plans for the future. That Batwoman would endanger their existing plans, but
Yeah. That's
we'll have to
probably
see.
true. Um, all right, let's continue. So Shazam 2, that's all done. It was a really whatever movie. Um, let's talk about Zack Snyder. Uh, I know you don't want to, but
No, we can.
unfortunately, he met headlines this week.
Yeah, there's
Zack
a
Snyder
topic.
reportedly still has all the rights to his old DC characters, and Netflix may be offering him, or he may be offering Netflix, either one, an opportunity to expand his DC universe into the streaming platform. So, what do you think, Joe?
Um, this to me feels whatever. I mean, I personally am kind of done with what they're doing with this DC universe from Zack Snyder's perspective. But I know people really love his work and they want to see more. And for those people, I guess it's a good thing. But for people that want to make it be their toxic selves and like, oh, I won and we won, we're gonna do this. Like we have a couple friends that support the Snyder vision and they're gonna be all ecstatic like it's the greatest thing ever. For me, yes, it'd be nice to see this vision finished, but there's a lot of problems that's going to come with this whole plan. And the biggest problem is if you're going to continue with these characters and expand your world, you need to have all your main people come back, and you could you'll be able to get Ezra Bridger probably back. You'll probably be able to get Gal Gadot. You'll probably be able to get
Ezra Bridger?
I mean, sorry, Ezra Miller is what I meant. Sorry, we were talking about Star Wars earlier, so my brain. But yeah, you'll probably be able to get them to come. We'll probably get them to come back. They can't get Cyborg back. I don't see that happening.
I mean, they could if Ray Fisher agrees to terms. They would have to pay him a lot, though.
Yeah, I don't know if they would. He's not like a big name actor, so. Aquaman would be pretty easy. So then getting Cavell and just Ben back into it, that'd be your biggest piece. So like, I don't know. I don't really like.
I think if Cavill and Affleck knew they were working with Snyder, they'd probably say yes because they trust Snyder and they don't really care at this point. Probably they're just getting a paycheck to do this. So, to be honest, if they know that it's not going to lead to anywhere and it's just to finish off his universe, they might do it.
Is this something you want to see, or where do you?
It's something I want to see finished. Yes, I want to see what his vision looked like. I hate when people start something and don't finish it. I always think something. If you're gonna start something, you always gotta finish it. And I would like to see it. Yes, as much as you probably don't want me to hear, you don't want to hear me say this.
No, it's totally your opinion.
I do want to see this because I want to see what the end of his vision looked like. I want to see. We know you told me before that you've heard things about what it may have been.
Yeah.
And it could, you never know. I mean, people take different directions. He could maybe do something different. I just want to see what he imagined when he did this, when they gave him offered him to do the DC universe. I wanted to see where he took his Justice League. So yes, I do want to see it. I do want to kind of see it, but not for the reasons of I want this to be the definitive DC. I don't. I do not want this to be the definitive DC. I just want to see what Zack Snyder had in plans, and I want to see it carried out. But other than, I mean, and it's Batman, and it's all DC stuff, and I love DC, so the more DC, the merrier. Um,
Very true.
but yeah, what do you think about this show? Do you want to see it? I mean,
I mean,
if this was,
I'm invested in the idea of seeing the end of this, but I have my reservations about how it's going to affect the communities that I'm kind of worried about.
yeah, that makes sense. Definitely. Um, so yeah, that's that. So next, kind of trailing off that, we have a new report for Flash, which isn't too significant, but it's got a big name actor involved in it, so I kind of just figured we'd throw this up here. So
Yeah,
apparently, somehow, for some reason, Tom Cruise has seen Flash, the new Flash movie, and says it's incredible, and says it's one of the best DC movies he's seen. And it's odd because James Gunn actually said the same thing about the Flash too. So what are we expecting here, Joe? Do we think the Flash might be a really good movie?
I think it's possible it could be really good. They just keep talking about it like it's going to be really interesting with this movie because with all the people talking this movie up, if this movie doesn't deliver, it's going to be very interesting to see what people think of that because there's so much hype for this movie. They're saying people have seen this movie. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Um, I'm kind of wondering why they're showing it to like celebrities and stuff. Like I get why James Gunn's seen it, that makes sense. But Tom Cruise, why, when, and where did he see it? Like that's what I want to, and why?
Yeah, I wonder why they did that.
Do
That's
you have
an
any idea?
interesting
Do you have any
choice.
clue why? I mean, how this occurred?
I don't have any idea. I haven't heard anything. I just heard that
Unless he, I mean, the only thing that I can think of is that he's somehow involved in this movie or something relating to this movie. I mean, did they already? Do you think that Tom Cruise has already been cast as a major player in the new DC?
maybe,
Just a
but
thought.
but
I
yeah,
mean,
we definitely haven't seen anything about it. So
or maybe they just let big name actors watch their unreleased movies because it's Tom Cruise.
yeah, you're not gonna really say no to Tom Cruise.
Yeah, unless you're Marvel.
Yeah, they did.
Marvel says no to everybody, especially Tom Cruise.
Apparently so.
Yeah. So there's that. We got one more topic here. This is gonna be kind of cool. So the Last of Us recently ended. Sad face. But there is hope because Bella Ramsey says that we should be expecting season two in at least early 2025. And the directors of The Last of Us have said that they are going to expand part two into two separate seasons. So this is interesting because we know Joel dies in the early parts of part two. So if part two is expanding over two seasons, do you think we might see him live longer than usual, or maybe he won't die? I mean, I don't know. What do you think of this show?
I think there's definitely a lot of possibilities to take into this now, because you're like, oh, how are they doing this if he's still gonna be around? This sets some interesting questions in the air.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to
Definitely.
see what comes from it. I mean, uh, I thoroughly enjoyed the first season.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so.
and
I
I'm
think it was
excited to see
good.
where they go for the next two seasons. It's going to be interesting seeing them expand both just part two of the games into two seasons. It means that they're going to take a lot of creative. They're going to take their own creative blinking right now, but they're gonna change things up, which is nice because they've already kind of changed things up. So hopefully they can change things up more. Um, I just hope they're not gonna kill off Joel, but they probably will, to be honest, because I guess it has to happen at some point. I mean, they showed the doctor for the Reeves for a
Yeah,
specific reason, so
eventually they're
Abby.
probably
So,
going to definitely do it.
damn, you okay,
Yeah.
Joe? You sound distracted.
No, sorry. Yeah, no, I
You were looking
completely,
at, I bet you were looking at your phone, weren't you?
I looked at one thing just to check some things out, but yeah,
You
I
checked
was
the
looking
Twitter.
up more about the actor that's playing Ezra, but yeah, I definitely
Did you find out who it was?
he's not someone that's very known that what I can see. He looks it
Okay.
was rumored to be the Aladdin guy, and now it's someone different.
I would have liked the Aladdin guy, to be honest.
He would have been a good pick for sure, but I think this other guy, they seem pretty happy with him from what I've heard. So
Well, hopefully he can play Ezra right. That's all I care
yeah, I
about.
think I think he will be able to. I mean, they haven't missed on a casting yet so far. Like for a character that they've actually has been a beloved character. I think everyone that they've casted for the Mandoverse has been pretty accurate. So
Yeah.
so I'm not
You know what?
not
I don't think
too.
I've said this before, but I'm not still 100% sold on Rosa. How did the pig get out of the? Okay, whatever. I'm not 100% sold on what's her name, Rosario Dawson
Was
on
Ahsoka?
Ahsoka.
You don't feel about her very well?
I don't know. I feel like they could have picked somebody better, but I don't mind it. I just don't know. I mean, I feel like I don't know. Not 100% sold. Obviously, they can't do Ashley because she's not. She just doesn't look like Ahsoka. But you
Yeah.
know, I don't know. I wouldn't have. She wouldn't have been my first pick, but then again, I don't know who my first pick would have been. Probably Natalie Portman, but she's already in the Star Wars universe, so that can't happen.
Yeah. I think they did
um,
they did a good job changing up, picking someone that I think has already been pretty successful with other projects, and I think she's got this pretty well. So I'm
yeah,
not. I think she's done good. I think over time she'll grow more on people.
yeah, I think she'll go more on me, hopefully. And I guess I didn't really give her. I'm not giving her a chance a lot because she hasn't had a lot of a ton of dialogue and just the episode. I mean, she's talked a lot, but she hasn't had a lot of opportunity to really shine as her character. So
True. That's why it's good to have
I'm
your
glad
own
that they're giving
show.
her this opportunity because I think she deserves it. And an Ahsoka show has been long overdue.
Of course.
A boop.
Yeah, it definitely has been very overdue.
So last thing here, and I'm gonna bring up, and then we'll be done with our podcast. We're inching closer. We're inching closer to John Wick Chapter 4. For our viewers out there, what are your final thoughts and hopes for this movie?
Yeah. Oh, what's more? What are my final thoughts and hopes for this movie?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I'm
well,
asking you,
so
bro.
everyone knows now that we have been